What's up, YouTube? It is I, Crazy Dan Matheny. Anyway, I hadn't really done a video on here in a long time. Still using pretty much, for a while I was using desktop environments, but kind of gotten back into things a little bit. But I think one thing I should probably talk about today is how to manage your operating systems. Especially when you're using a certain operating system, like for me. Right now I'm using Debian Sid because that's what I feel like using. So, whenever I'm building stuff like, Qtile or DWM, which I got DWM actually in my configs, because like I'm all over the place. But I got another Qtile right there, but I downloaded it and installed it yesterday. But anyway, I mostly use IceWM and DWM, but I have patches. I did try a lot of different patches. I ended up going back to what works for me because I don't really have a fancy DWM. And the reason why I should talk about system maintenance is because on my favorite operating systems I keep track of everything that's going on. So and I always hop around. I'll be on FreeBSD one day, Arctic's on another, and Debian Sid on another, or whatever I feel like doing for that time. But I got everything backed up into 3 hard drives, so that's how I can do that and be fine. But anyway, I'll just go ahead and just show my sources.list right quick. Yeah, that's the Kitty terminal, and by the way, that's probably become my new favorite terminal just because of how it is. So yeah, originally it was the regular Debian stable, but I pretty much just used Debian testing for a little bit, and then I was just like, I'll just go to Sid, screw it. So maybe one day I might talk about what the advantages are and all the good stuff. But yeah, how I have my IceWM set up is Alt return, I get my Kitty terminal, super enter, I get my LX terminal, and control enter, I get my xterm terminal. And shells, I like all the shells. I ain't gonna lie, I'm fine with whatever shell, but I like ZSH because it reminds me, I would say, it's not necessarily like TCSH, but I really like TCSH because of how its directory is organized and how it likes to organize its history. And ZSH is kind of similar to that, but there's a lot you can mess around with CSH. But, and the cool part about Debian is, no one really talks about this, is the complete shell. And in Dev1, the complete shell is dash. That's its shell. So, a lot of people, dash is, or not dash, but bash is the default to their Linux operating system. But with Debian it's dash, not bash. But anyway, I'll mess around with this MKSH, TCSH, even regular KSH or bash, doesn't matter, start not to. It's cool if it's linked to dash, but with Debian, your shell is most likely linked to dash anyway, so that is the cool part about Debian. And another cool part is with the task cell installer, if you unselect everything, it won't install sudo. So because I use do as, even though I updated it last night, let's go ahead and just do that right quick. And right now my computer is a T480, so you know what, since I like bouncing around different terminals. But on the T480, the NeoFetch kind of runs slow. So, it kind of runs slow, and it's kind of, I don't really use it just to show what, my computer is basically. But I love my, T480, it's the perfect balance. So It did need an update. But with SID, a good practice is to read the mailing list and to update it every day. So right now what I need to do is just go into here, and I'm just kind of rambling, guys. I'm probably just, I'll probably put my theme in there and do a little bit of editing, but I'm not really going to be doing too much editing on this one. Okay, so let's just say, let's just type in Debian SID. Okay, so you got Debian SID, you got the Debian wiki right here. Okay, so in your system management, what you want to do is you want to go, if you're using Debian SID like I am, which isn't the best idea because stuff will break. Stuff is broken when I've used Arch. It will break, but that's why I back up my stuff. That's why I brought that up, and that's why that's important, because something can fail. But I usually am able to fix all my problems now. But, I think for whatever reason I like living on the edge. I don't know what it is. It's like, yes, I like testing, but then there's a part of me that wants to live on the edge. But they'll even tell you that, things break on the Debian wiki. So it's one thing you want to pay attention to, and you want to get on the mailing list, so that you can know, hey, this dependency is having an issue, especially if you're installing different software. You need to know where you're installing your software and where it's coming from, and that goes with the AUR, the Arch User Repository, because you're going to want to keep track of that. Because if you don't, it's going to be a mistake that you're going to have to pay for, and trust me, I paid for that mistake. So, but yeah, I can't find it. Well, here we go. You can get all your information right here. Debian Devel. So, you can get on the mailing list this way if you need to. You can unsubscribe, you can subscribe, but I'm trying to figure out where it is for SID right now. But you have Debian release, Devel, let's see. Avoid, it even says avoid using unstable list, but you can easily get, the status on what's going on. But sometimes I don't even read it. Sometimes, guys, I'm guilty of just not reading it, because if there's a problem, I just try to fix it, and usually I can. But this is good practice. But it talks about don't break Debian. Now, this is important because you got to be careful on what you install, and that goes to, keeping up with your dependencies, especially if you're building software that's not a part of Debian. And when you use an older dependency, let's just say, you're using some dependency from Debian stable, you're going to have to keep track of that dependency, because your system could break, and it's really a bad idea to do that. So don't always be like me. Does it work out most of the time? Yeah. But, yeah, they probably changed where the mailing list is, but I could just go here. But is Debian SID safe? It's not always safe. It's not. But you got your Q's and A's. You can get your information. I know that there's the mailing list here somewhere, because I'm on the mailing list. Okay, guys. So, yeah, this is going to be kind of like a rambling video. Just me talking about system maintenance. Let's go to Arch Linux. Okay, so whatever, help or AUR helper you decide to get, I always use Peru when I'm using Arch Linux. Like I said, you want to keep track of your dependencies. Sometimes that package helper is going through some issues. So there's one of the times I was installing Arch Linux, and I usually like to do Peru-bin, but there was some stuff going on with Peru and Rust at the time. So, and this was like a month ago or something, or 2 months ago. I had to pretty much take my loss and just clean up everything, and then just install Peru. That way, and I had all these helpers. It was a mess. I was like, okay, I'm getting carried away with this. So I like everything being clean. But yeah, you get news. AUR is pretty good about their news and their recent updates. And the Arch Wiki is really good. If you have information, if you're on BSD and you have information about desktop environments or window managers, the Arch Wiki is a pretty excellent source for information. And I really like Gentoo's wiki too, even though it doesn't have a lot of information about certain things. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about that because, the shell, shell kind of matters. I mean, in some cases, you really have to make sure your profile's on point, your .profile, so that way all your information can be output right into the shell. Because there were some things I missed that I had to clean up and all that. But after doing a manual install with all these different operating systems for a while, I just know the basics. The basics are know your directories also. And even if you're new, you can open up your file manager, whatever it is. You don't even have to open a terminal yet. And you can see what it is. I mean, in Linux, you have user, share. It's all pretty much right there. But, in BSD, it's two different directories. You got your user share, then you have your user local share. And that's a security thing. And that's a really, really good thing. And that is where I give one up on BSD 4. Because that's what makes them a secure operating system, their directory structure. It's really good, but all the directory structures are fine, you know what I mean, but I'm just saying it's a little more secure that way, through their directory structure. But, in the terminal, if I want to go to Etsy, I'll just do this, and I'm in Etsy, and then, let's just say I want to go to the MPV directory, or, duaz.conf. Yep, so there's my duaz. There's no sudo here. There's no sudo root file. There's just duaz. So, I'll just go ahead and slide up right quick just to show you. But, this is kind of like a check-in, just my overall thing about system management, regardless of what operating system you use, what Linux distribution you use. You want to learn all about that system and everything, and what services you want to start. So, I mean, you have your different init systems. You have systemd, which is, if I want to disable a service, so I can do duaz system ctl, and then whatever that is. So, sudo system control stop. Let's just say I don't have a display manager. Light DM. So you have that, and then you have, you have the basic BSD init system, which is like, whatever editor you're using. So, I mean, in BSD you have V or Easy Editor. I've been trying to install Easy Editor onto whatever distribution for a while, because it's actually my favorite text editor, because, it just is. But yeah, there's no fancy editing, just a lot of rambling. My IceWM's pretty normal. I can run a program this way or run a program through Rofi, but I didn't even move my Rofi. So right now I could just do what I always like to do. So copy. I have to do copy R. Configs, because I'm already in home. And Rofi into home dam .config. So all I gotta do is ls configs. So that's because I know why, because I didn't realize I was back at home, guys. That's funny. So now I can do this, and it'll pull up fine. It'll pull up how it was before. Yep. So there it is. So yeah. So that's a mistake I made, because I'm still tired because I work a lot. So the reason why I don't do a lot of videos is because now I work a lot. So but yeah, with BSD, any text editor is fine. But I was talking about init systems. But run it is very simple. ln-s. etc run it for whatever it is, depends on the distribution, you know, whatever the service is. So you do SV for your service, and then whatever the service is that you want. So let's just say most people like Network Manager, even though I use Conman, but we'll use Conman, and I use Conman on here too. Conman. So, and then you link it to your run, even though it's different now. It's actually etc run it slash, and then whatever, you know, that directory is, but that's if you have run it. And then with you know, you're in it in BSD, you know, you would just do whatever editor and then etc rc.conf or boot-loader.conf. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm probably always going to be back and forth between the three, because you know, there's always something wrong. Honestly, you know, the only thing that's wrong with Arctics is you can easily destroy that bootloader, especially through this T480 I have right here. All I gotta do is, okay, well, I want to play with another system. I guess out of my practice, for my ThinkPads, now I like to delete the bootloader, or I like to reset the BIOS and then install the OS. You know, I still use, you know, UEFI and stuff. And I understand why people don't like UEFI. I just use it just because it kind of looks cool with the bootloader, with the options. I don't know why. But yeah, you know, that's how I've been doing things lately. Shells, there's a lot of shells I like. And honestly, if you're going to use TCSH on Linux, the best BSD's default config for CSHRC is great. So, you know, I got my shells right here, you know, TCSH, bash, MKSH, all set up and ready, you know, whenever I want to use them. And, you know, there's still stuff I need to play around with, check out, like Xmonad. You know, I hadn't played around with that in a long, long time, but it's something I should play around with again. But anyway, I've babbled on a lot, but I need to show my ICE WM config right now. So should I show the configs first? Let's just see configs here. Let's just see. I gotta get there, so I'll just do V. I don't care. V ICE WM / keys. So this is what I had before. Well, this was on Arch actually. This X backlight I couldn't get to work on here, and actually I had, you know, the mixer right there. I'll show you what it is right now on here. So I'll just do nano ICE WM / keys. This is what it's looking like right now. But yeah, I just have it configured the way I like it to be. I can set my brightness, I can set, you know, everything. And Intel backlight is the default for brightness CTL, so if I want to set it, I can. And yes, I like using Super H and Super G better. So if I want to make it brighter, I can. Or I can just turn it back, and my keys work for here too. So to turn it up, to turn it down, I can easily do that, and that's fine with me. So and that works for me, but that's my config. So I'll go ahead and exit out of that. In preferences, let's just go here. I can look for, because all you got to do is Control W. Let's do shutdown. So yeah, I always like get rid of. I don't know why I do this. I don't really need to do this on a systemd based operating system, but I do it anyway. Let me see. Doas.conf. and I know that I can't do it because I'm not the root, but permit persist Dan as root, you know, so whatever args there are with that command. And that's what you have to do with these commands with Debian, okay? It's going to be your doas config. If you go with doas, it's going to be different for every operating system that you use. It's not the same configuration file. And yes, this is over me. I don't care. If you want to see my pretty face, there you go. The light's not the best in here anyway, guys. But yeah, I'm just rambling about a bunch of stuff here. But that's been my experience, really, with Linux or with whatever operating system. And I kind of still do care about environments. Don't get me wrong, you know, because I got bored just using a desktop. But I'm always like trying out new things and just seeing what works. But I think Kitty has become more of my favorite terminal than Alacrity. But you can install Alacrity on Debian or Dev1 easily, especially with Cargo. All you have to do is install Cargo, and you're good to go. But you got to symlink things together, and you know, same with all the other stuff you install source-wise or from another type of package manager for a programming language and whatnot. And you know, so I think prog builds is in here. Yep, prog builds. So I've messed around with Rust a little bit. I don't even know if I've installed Rust on here or not, but yeah. So those are the two programming languages I'm messing around with right now. But I feel like I've talked long enough. I could talk about a million different things. I'm just checking in right now because I can. So I could go into more detail about system maintenance with each operating system, but you know, and I just like using the term operating system regardless whether it's a Linux distribution or FreeBSD, OpenBSD, NetBSD, you know, whatever the case is. So, yeah, but they all work in their own different way. Right now, I just feel like using Debian because I don't feel like, you know, messing around with anything but binaries, even though, like, you know, and the source stuff that I do, or like the packages that I do mess around with, you know, I'm keeping track of the dependencies that are installed with that package. And that's another thing. So, you know, keeping track of all that stuff is going to be important. Okay. So, very, very, very important. So I can't stress that enough. You know, you don't want to lose your information. You want to make sure your information's backed up, and this is just good practice. It's just good practice. You know, I don't have a server. I don't have a million files to worry about, so I just have a couple hard drives. And, you know, I'm looking up to the guys, whether Linux or BSD, that are running servers and, you know, network stuff. But I use Conman as my network manager. I don't have Conman GTK, you know, so I'm just going to show Conman CTL very quick just to show that he's Conman. That's because I typed it wrong. That's why. But that's because, yeah. But yeah, I'm sure the browser still works. I'm sure the browser still works. If not, then I can fix it. Oh, it still does. Yeah, browser still works. Yeah, so there you go, guys. There's my little spiel. I mean, BSD, I didn't talk about enough, but we'll talk about that right quick. And, you know, with FreeBSD, you have the handbook, okay? FreeBSD handbook. That is the best source of information that you're going to find. And there's only one thing with FreeBSD, but they're working on it. And that is their wireless. I only get 3 millibits per second out of whatever machine I use. Yes, this works great with my T480. Okay? This works great with any ThinkPad for the most part. FreeBSD works with most of your hardware. Now, it's not as up to date as Linux and with firmware. So, but they have excellent documentation on stuff you want to install. I know I've babbled a lot, guys. So, but, you know, this is something I forgot to talk about. So they even have a chapter on Wayland. You know, this is even new to me, but they even have a chapter on configuring Wayland. So I feel like they have caught up. I feel like they are more up to date, but at the same time, they are not as up to date as Linux is with hardware and firmware, but they're catching up. You know, they're up to date with a lot of things. But the reason why FreeBSD is so awesome is because of the documentation and because of how they manage their software. And how they manage their software is great, because any kind of insecurity, any kind of bug, they're right on it. So even though some releases are later, even with the latest package repository, they really do a good job maintaining their packages. You may not have a lot of choices, but I think that they're great. You know, and if their wireless were faster, it would pretty much be my daily driver. Sometimes it is. You know, sometimes I'll just install it, but I think there's nothing wrong with hopping if you learn. If you're not just like if you're just doing it, you know, and not really learning about the operating system, then what's the point of distro hopping? You know, I mean, I could do it on a virtual machine, and I should set one up. I don't know why I just don't. I know how to do it. I just don't do it. I like seeing how things run on the hardware for whatever reason. But anyway, great documentation. They take good care of their software with FreeBSD, and it's a really great operating system. Great tools, my favorite tools. You know, I like the tools on Linux too. The only problem I have with Debian right now, okay, is I have to switch to the root just to do a dd command. Because let's just say, you know, I go into downloads or whatever, you know, and you know, I'm just seeing what's going on. Bringing me bacon. Yeah, so it's still the morning. But anyway, I have that dependency right there, which I'll take care of eventually. But yeah, for everything, I hadn't organized it yet. But yeah, because I guess, you know, for a while I got hung up on doing DD, but I got to switch user, and then after switching user I can do DD, and then the F, and then blah blah, and then equals, and then copy and paste, and whatever, BS equals whatever megabytes. But anyway, guys, I've rambled long enough. You've heard me flap my gums long enough. That's how my experience is going. You know, I tinker, I mess around with things when I have the time. You know, and I still just have my desktop environments. Once in a while I'll use Spectre WM, once in a while I'll use Qtile. Play around with Qtile because I'm learning Python. So, you know, I'll play around with some things and whatnot. Just because of learning Python. And Left WM, I used to play around with that a lot. I might play around with that again. For a while I was. So, but that wasn't on camera either. But a lot of things I've done had not been on camera for a while. So, you know, I'm glad that I got to talk for about 20 minutes or whatever it is. But I hope you guys have a good day, and I lied about going, you know, a couple times, but I'm now about to go. So, look these things up. You have the power. You can look up the information through your favorite search engine, because I don't care anymore which search engine I'm using. I used to care about browsers, but Firefox is perfect for me because it's simple and straightforward. And I like simple and straightforward things, even though like I'm starting to be familiar with more complex things. But anyway, that's going to be it. See you guys later. Peace.
This has been a Dan Matheny production. Thanks for watching.